Hi there, I'm Grace. I shared a modest two-story Minneapolis house with my parents, Lisa and Robert, for 18 years. Although we were not the kind of family that went on thrilling vacations or movie evenings, I assumed that was just how my parents were: practical, quiet, and preoccupied with daily tasks. Working as an accountant, Mom spent her evenings with a calculator and spreadsheets in hand. Dad was in sales, constantly on the phone closing business and getting ready for presentations. When I asked, they helped with homework and kept me fed and clothed. Still, there always existed this disconnect. No gentle hugs. Not "I love yous" tossed around carelessly as I observed in other households. I reminded myself that this was their way, that not every family had to be touchy-feely to be decent. Mom remarked early on my 18th birthday, "Grace, honey, we need to talk to you after dinner." She spoke in an extremely austere manner, but I paid little thought to it. Though they had never really made a big deal out of birthdays previously, maybe they had something planned. That evening, I sat at our kitchen table, nibbling at the leftovers of my birthday meal, takeout pizza, my preference. Mom had hardly touched her slice, and Dad kept looking at his phone, something obviously on his mind. "So, Grace," Dad said at last, setting down his phone, "your mother and I have been planning something for a while now, and since you are 18 today, it is time we told you." I woke up hoping for news about college readiness or maybe a surprise gift. What followed tasted like a bucket of icy water. "We're selling the house," Mom said squarely. "Your father and I are off for Europe. There we are planning to launch our own company." I fixed them, waiting for the joke. "Oh, okay. When are we scheduled to leave? I have to sort out regarding college applications and—" Mom stopped me, her voice cutting. "No, Grace," she said. "We are migrating. You are not traveling with us." "What do you mean?" My voice came out little, young, naive. "I'm not sure." "You're 18 now," Dad said, as if talking about a commercial deal. "And grown up then. You need to start looking after yourself." My brain not able to absorb what I was hearing, I peered between them. "But regarding college, I have couple months to start. We have been discussing about this." Mom responded, getting up to clean the plates. "That's your responsibility now. To be really honest, Grace, you have been a burden all these years, more than enough. We fed you, clothed you, helped you for 18 years. The words strike me like real blows. A weight carried all these years. Tears welling up in my eyes, Mom seemed to be stacking the dishes as though she hadn't just destroyed my whole life. Dad said, "You can stay here until we sell the house," with a tone that suggested this was some kind of gracious offer. "But the better it will be for everyone the sooner you solve your own problem." Frozen as my parents debated property valuations and moving logistics over my head was where I sat. Memories 18 years ago suddenly changed and moved. Every quiet supper, every missed school performance, every fleeting "good job" instead of a hug, they were not indicators of discipline or other parenting approaches. These were indicators that my parents had been counting down the days until they could get me gone. I woke up the following morning as though a truck had struck. As I phoned Grandma Eleanor, my hands shook. She picked up the second ring, and her gentle voice already helped me to feel somewhat less adrift. "Gracie, sweetheart, is everything good? You never gave these early calls." Though I could hardly put the words out, I somehow told her everything. The birthday supper, their announcement, Mom labeling me a burden. Grandma's breathing on the other end of the telephone sounded heavier with every detail. "Those absolute," under her breath, she said something I had never heard her say before. Then spoke more strongly, "Pack your luggage, Gracie. You are visiting with me live at the moment." Twice of telling was not necessary. From the attic I pulled my biggest suitcase and began stuffing everything I could think of: clothes, pictures, my laptop, the little bits of jewelry I owned. My hands were shaking so violently I could hardly zip the bag closed. Mom and Dad still discussed property values downstairs. When I pulled my suitcase past them and out the door, they hardly turned around. Not a farewell. About my destination, no questions exist. Nothing here. Grandma was waiting on her front porch when I came into her driveway. She brought me inside the small house I had visited so many times before and enveloped me in one of her bear hugs, the kind of hug I had always wanted from Mom. Grandma lay out her plan over cups of her wonderful hot chocolate with extra marshmallows, same like when I was small. "First things first, you're going to college," she said, her voice devoid of any margin for debate. "I have savings and will be using them to send my grandchild to college." "Grandma, I cannot take your money." "You are not taking anything. I am handing it to you." She grabbed across the table and clasped my hand. "And you should also know, I am changing my will." I surprised me by looking up. Grandma said with a sharp expression, "This house, Gracie, everything is going to you from savings, not 1 cent to your mother. Though not very large, this residence is paid for. While not millions, the savings are plenty. It will all belong to you." Grandma raised one more issue later that evening as we sat in her little but spotless living room. "We have to agree on something, Gracie," she added cautiously. "We should keep the specifics of all this between us, in my opinion, not need to show the rest of the family dirty clothes." I nodded and knew right away. "I don't want to talk about it anyhow." "Good," Grandma said, patting my hand. "Let them think what they want. We know the truth, and that's what matters." College life fell into a comfortable routine. Each morning, I'd wake up to the smell of Grandma's coffee and the sound of her humming in the kitchen. We have breakfast together before I headed to my classes. In the evenings, I'd tell her about my day while she worked on her crossword puzzles. Occasionally, relatives would drop by to visit Grandma. During one such visit, Aunt Sarah mentioned casually, "Oh, did you hear? Lisa and Robert finally made it to Europe, opened some kind of business there." I heard her but just nodded and excused myself to study. I didn't want to know more. What was harder to handle were the comments about my independence. They came regularly, wrapped in admiration that made me want to scream. "You're such a strong young woman," Grace Uncle Mike said during one visit. "Taking charge of your life, moving out on your own. So mature of you. It's admirable how you decided to make your own way." Cousin Rachel chimed in. "Not everyone your age would choose independence over living with their parents." Each time I'd force a smile and change the subject. It didn't take long to figure out the story my parents had spun. Their driven, independent daughter, so eager to strike out on her own, had moved out right after high school. It was easier to let everyone believe it. The truth hurt too much to share. Then came the worst day of my life. Grandma had been feeling tired for weeks, but we both brushed it off as just age catching up with her. By the time we realized it was more than that, it was too late. The doctor said words like aggressive and advanced stage. Before I knew it, I was holding her hand in a hospital room, watching her slip away. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Gracie," she whispered one night, her voice weak but her eyes clear. "Don't you ever forget that." She died 3 months later, a year before I was set to graduate. The funeral was small, but well attended by family. Everyone came, except my parents. Aunt Sarah told me they'd been informed, but said they couldn't make it back from Europe on such short notice. I graduated with honors the following year, clutching my diploma and fighting back tears. The one person I wanted to see me walk across that stage wasn't there. But Grandma had prepared me for everything, even her absence. Thanks to her generosity, I had options. I used some of the inheritance to buy a lovely apartment closer to downtown where I'd landed a job at Preston and Associates, an investment firm. I decided to keep her house and rent it out. I couldn't bear to sell it, but I also couldn't face living there without her. Life has a funny way of surprising you when you least expect it. That's how I met James. He walked into the wrong conference room at Preston and Associates, looking for a client meeting that had been moved. Instead, he found me preparing for a presentation, surrounded by scattered papers and empty coffee cups. Either this isn't the Thompson meeting, or they've really changed their marketing strategy, he joked, gesturing at my chaos. I couldn't help but laugh. Next door, but hey, at least you found someone who appreciates a good coffee addiction. One coffee date led to another, and before I knew it, we were spending every free moment together. James was different from anyone I'd ever met, warm, genuine, and incredibly patient. When I finally told him about my parents one night, he just held me and listened, not trying to fix anything or offer empty platitudes. "You didn't deserve that," was all he said, wiping away my tears. Not any of it. A year and a half after that wrong turn into my conference room, James took me to dinner at the restaurant where we'd had our first date. He seemed nervous all evening, fidgeting with his napkin and checking his pocket every few minutes. When dessert arrived, I found a ring nestled next to my chocolate souffle. A stunning diamond that caught the candlelight and scattered it across our table. "I want to build a family with you," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "A real one, filled with all the love you should have had all along." I said yes through happy tears. For the first time in years, I felt truly, completely whole. The next day, I posted a photo on social media. My hand with the ring, James hugging me from behind. "Said yes to forever with my best friend." I wrote my heart so full of joy I thought it might burst. 2 days later, the message appeared in my inbox. My mother's name popped up and my stomach lurched. "Dearest Grace, your father and I just saw your wonderful news. We are so incredibly happy for you. We know we have no right to ask this, but we spent years regretting how we treated you. Not a day goes by that we don't think about our terrible mistakes. We'd love to come to your engagement party to try to make amends. We understand if you say no, but we miss you so much. Love, Mom and Dad." I stared at the message until the words blurred. When James came home, I showed it to him, my hands trembling. "What do you think?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. James read the message twice, his arm around my shoulders. "I think it's entirely your decision. But if they've genuinely changed, if they're truly sorry, maybe they deserve a chance to prove it." I thought about Grandma, about what she would say. She'd probably tell me to be careful, but to follow my heart. "Okay," I whispered, more to myself than to James. "One chance." I wrote back a short message. "The party is next Saturday at 7 o'clock. You can come at 6 o'clock to talk first." My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I got ready that Saturday evening. James squeezed my shoulder and kissed my cheek before heading out to pick up the catering, leaving me alone to face my parents. At exactly 6:00 p.m., the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find them standing there, Mom in an expensive-looking dress, Dad in a crisp suit. They looked exactly the same, yet somehow like strangers. "Grace, darling." Mom stepped forward for an awkward hug. I stood stiffly, letting her embrace me but not returning it. "You look wonderful, and what a lovely apartment." We moved to the living room where they perched uncomfortably on the edge of my sofa. Dad commented on the decor. Mom asked about my job. Both of them acted like we were distant acquaintances at a cocktail party rather than family. Then Dad cleared his throat, his pleasant expression dropping away like a mask. "Grace, let's cut to the chase. We know about your situation." My situation. I felt my stomach clench. "Yes," Mom leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "We know about Grandma's inheritance, the house, the savings, all of it, and we've done our research." "What research?" "The house is worth at least $300,000 in today's market," she stated like she was giving a business presentation. Knowing Mom, there must be significant savings too. Plus, we see you're doing very well. Nice apartment, wealthy fiancé. Get to the point, I said, my voice trembling. We want $70,000, Dad announced flatly. It's less than we're entitled to, really, but we're being reasonable. Stared at them, speechless. Mom pulled out a small notebook. I've calculated everything. As Mom's daughter, I have a right to inherit. If you don't give us the money, we'll sue for half of everything. The house, the accounts, all of it. You can't be serious, I whispered. Oh, we are, Dad's voice hardened. And if you don't cooperate, we'll make sure everyone knows how you manipulated your grandmother, how you turned her against us and convinced her to cut out her own daughter. It doesn't matter what really happened, Mom cut in. What matters is what people will believe. Do you want all your relatives to know how you schemed to get your grandmother's money? Want your new in-laws to hear about it? The doorbell rang again. Early guests arriving. I stood up, feeling dizzy. I need time to think about this. Think fast. Dad stood, straightening his tie. We want an answer soon. They walked out just as James's parents walked in, all smiles and congratulations. I plastered on a fake smile and tried to focus on greeting guests, but my mind was spinning. As the apartment filled with cheerful voices and laughter, I felt like I was watching everything from underwater. The morning after the engagement party, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my phone. James had gone to work, but not before holding me close and whispering, "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." My hands were steady this time as I dialed their number. Mom picked up on the first ring. "Have you made your decision?" No hello, no pleasantries. Yes. I took a deep breath. "I'm not giving you any money. Grandma made her choice, and I'm honoring it." "You'll regret this," she hissed and hung up. They didn't waste any time. That evening, my phone started buzzing with notifications. My parents had posted a lengthy message on social media, complete with sad-faced emojis and carefully filtered photos of them looking distressed. "Our hearts are breaking," the post read. "After losing everything in Europe, our home, our business, all our savings, we turned to our only daughter for help. But Grace, who was living in luxury with her wealthy fiancé, refused to help her own parents. We are now homeless, moving between relatives' homes, not knowing where we'll sleep next week. How did we raise such a heartless child?" Within hours, the post had been shared throughout our entire extended family. My phone exploded with messages. "Grace, how could you? Your own parents, they raised you for 18 years. You have plenty of money now. Why can't you help them?" Aunt Martha called me sobbing. "They need a place to stay, Grace. That house of your grandmother's is just sitting there with renters in it. Your own parents should be living there." Uncle Peter's message was particularly harsh. "Your grandmother would be ashamed of you. Your parents sacrificed everything for you." I wanted to scream to tell them all the truth, but my throat felt closed up every time I tried to respond. Then came the wedding cancellations. "I'm sorry, Grace, but I can't celebrate while your parents are suffering." Cousin Rachel texted. "What kind of person starts a marriage by turning their back on family?" wrote another relative. The final blow came from Uncle Mike, who'd always been kind to me at family gatherings. His message was brief and professional. "Grace, as a lawyer, I feel obligated to inform you that I will be representing your parents in their lawsuit against you regarding your grandmother's estate. The law is clear about children's rights to inheritance, and your grandmother's will can be contested. Expect official documentation soon. I recommend you reconsider your position before this gets messy. You don't want to start your married life with a legal battle." I sat in my darkened apartment, reading and rereading the messages, watching as my entire extended family turned against me. The irony was almost funny. They were finally seeing me as the terrible person my parents had always thought I was, but for all the wrong reasons. James found me there when he got home, still scrolling through the endless stream of accusations and disappointment. He took one look at my face and pulled me into his arms. Sitting at my computer, fingers hovering over the keyboard, I took a deep breath and began to type. To my family and friends, I've stayed quiet for 8 years about what really happened between my parents and me. I let everyone believe their version of events because the truth was too painful to share. But now I have no choice. I uploaded the video file beneath my post. Grandma's face filled the screen, tired but determined, sitting in her hospital room. Her lawyer, Mr. Thompson, was visible in the background. "Lisa," Grandma began, addressing my mother directly, "if you're watching this, it means you're trying to take what I left to Grace. I knew you would. You're my daughter, and I love you, but your greed has poisoned your heart." She straightened in her chair, her voice resolute. "I, Letter Marie Sullivan, being of sound mind and clear judgment, am recording this message in the presence of my attorney. I want to state explicitly why I've chosen to leave everything to my granddaughter, Grace. 8 years ago, you and Robert threw your own child away like she meant nothing. You refused to help with her education, refused to give her any support. You called her a burden. A burden. Your own daughter, who I watched you bring into this world. Grace never told anyone what you did. She kept your secret, even when relatives praised you for raising such an independent daughter. She protected your reputation while you abandoned her. I'm leaving my house, my savings, and everything I own to Grace, not because she manipulated me, as I'm sure you'll claim, but because she showed more character in her pain than you've shown in your entire life. This is my final decision, made with full mental capacity and witnessed by my lawyer. Grace is my sole heir. That's all I have to say." The video ended with Mr. Thompson confirming the date and circumstances of the recording. I added a final line to my post. "I've kept this video private for years, respecting Grandma's wishes to avoid family drama. But now that my parents are threatening legal action and spreading lies, I have no choice but to share the truth. I'm sorry you all had to find out this way." With trembling fingers, I clicked post. The responses flooded in within minutes. The first call came from Uncle Mike. "Grace," his voice cracked. "I had no idea. My God, I'm so sorry. I'm withdrawing from the case immediately. What they did to you, it's unforgivable." Aunt Sarah called next, sobbing. "That birthday dinner? I remember bringing you a gift the next week, but your parents said you'd moved out. They seemed so proud of your independence. How could they?" The family group chat exploded with messages of shock, support, and apologies. Cousin Rachel, who'd canceled her RSVP just days ago, wrote a long message. "I feel horrible about judging you without knowing the truth. Your parents painted such a different picture. Please tell me it's not too late to attend the wedding. I want to be there to support you." One by one, all the wedding cancellations were reversed. Relatives who had condemned me just days before now reached out with heartfelt apologies and offers of support. Even distant family members I barely knew sent messages expressing their shock and sympathy. "Your place card will be waiting," I told each one. No hard feelings. From the grapevine, I heard bits about my parents. Having moved in with old pals from their undergraduate years, they occasionally worked here. Mom kept books for tiny companies. Dad was accepting whatever sales positions that were available. Their great European aspirations had evidently fallen apart long ago. Part of me expected to be embarrassed about showing Grandma's film, but sitting at my apartment the night before my wedding, staring at the Grandma picture on my mantel, I simply felt calm. I said to Grandma, "You were right, picture-wise. Indeed, the truth did release me." James found me there and encircled from behind. "Any regrets?" he said softly. Silence packed her bags, and I considered the terrified 18-year-old girl I had been, regarding the grandmother who with her love and forethought had saved me, about the woman I would have become, stronger, smarter, but free of the weight of lies carried by others. I answered, not a single one, meaning it. Surrounded by family who knew the true me, both the suffering I had endured and the fortitude it had given me, the next day I walked down the aisle. Though my parents were absent, the vacant chairs had no significance. Love, honesty, and at last, beautifully, peace, all the tools I required. Some would argue that for excluding my parents from my life and not supporting them during their hour of need, I am callous. Real family, however, is not about guilt or responsibility, I have discovered. It relates to truth, love, and support. And occasionally the most loving thing you can do is just let go.